I guess what's your favorite part of Fellowship of the Ring? I think that's a good place to start.
Oh my God. Okay. Well, it differs between book and movie, obviously, because I mean, for me, the Boromir death in Lord of the Rings, and probably should have noted at the front,
Yeah.
obvious spoilers. So if you haven't watched Lord of the Rings or read the books, you should get out of here because we're going to dive deep. But yeah, Boromir's death in the movie is absolutely one of my favorite parts. They took the little ones, absolutely
Such a cool
crushing.
song.
And yeah, it's funny because it doesn't actually, you don't actually get the reveal of Boromir's death until you're into Two Towers for the books. So it does not apply to the books themselves, but it is my favorite part of the movies for sure. When it comes to the books, oh my God. I mean, there's so many different areas that are just so captivating, and the descriptions that Tolkien uses to really make you immersed in the space. I'd say probably the Moria chapter
Mm.
is my favorite part of the book. What about you?
No, I hate to say it, but I also think for the books anyways, I think Moria is also my favorite because I think it gives you the best sense. One thing that the books do better than the movies, though the movies do it very well, is like the sense of time and like how much time has passed and
Yeah.
how you this story is taking place in not in like a fallen world essentially, or a world that is far removed from its history. And Moria, you get the best sense of that. Like they don't it's not like you don't get the description of like these like great, halls and whatnot, but it has like this decaying feel and the what is it called? The Dwero Dwelf? I don't know, like when they enter the room before
Birdhouse,
Balin's.
yeah.
So I really like it. It gives it like an eerie feeling and it feels like the pressure's on because even though the Nazgul chase the hobbits out of the Shire, up until Caradhras and Moria, you don't really get the idea. Like, I think that's the first time you see orcs. Uh,
Yeah,
in
Moria.
So it just kind of puts it more in a larger context. But I like Gandalf and fighting the Balrog, obviously. It might also be my favorite in the movies. Boromir's death is incredible. Probably the greatest, one of the greatest character moments in all the movies. But I think Moria for both
Yeah.
in the movies and the books.
No, that's fair. Well, Sean Bean just knows how to die on screen, and he
Yeah,
just does it
wonderful.
phenomenally. Absolute stud. No, it's a really fair point. I mean, it is true that Tolkien is so conscious of the time. But you made an interesting point because the gravity of the situation isn't really known to the readers, or I think to even the hobbits, until you start to see some of that darkness in Moria. And we've talked about this before, but there is this moment that Tolkien wrote so beautifully, but that Peter Jackson really brought to life in the movies, and that is when Frodo says, I wish none of this had ever happened. I really wish I wasn't the one who was bearing the ring. And so in the books, he says that in his little hobbit hole when Gandalf has returned. So this is well after, Bilbo's left the Shire, he's left the ring in Frodo's care. Gandalf returns, and in a movie you've got to go 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 go, but in the books it's years. And when Gandalf comes back and he's explaining the ring and the Dark Lord, that is when Frodo says in the books, I wish this had never happened. And Gandalf has that epic line, so do all who live to
Very
see such
beautiful.
times. But it's not for them to decide. All we have to decide is what to do with the time that is given us. And again, we've talked about this one-on-one so many times before, but for Peter Jackson to make the decision to have that conversation happen in Moria just feels more applicable because in the books, when Frodo is still safe in his hobbit hole, the gravity of the situation is so unclear at this point. But in Moria, it's finally starting to hit like, wow, we might not make it out of
Exactly.
this. This is so much bigger than just us. And it just makes that moment so powerful, like one of the most powerful moments or scenes in the movies for sure.
No, agreed. And it's maybe controversial, but I know we agree, at least for certain elements. But there are just some moments that the movies just do better and that I just
Hate to
have
say it.
carry more emotional weight. Because you're right, like in the start, you need that for like the context dump, and it's important to have. But again, like, yeah, you just don't feel the humanity behind it. And then like a similar moment is, I mean, Boromir's death for sure, but also like when Sam is running out as Frodo is leaving at the falls.
I
It's
should
like
have said that as my
it
favorite
almost
scene.
happens. Yeah, it almost happens exactly the same in the books. Like I think Sam almost like it's you're a little more recent on Fellowship, but I'm pretty sure Sam also begins to drown or like he's wading in the water.
His
Um,
head goes under, and
and but
immediately Frodo's
yeah,
like,
it just
no, I'm
has
not
more of
letting
an
that
emotional.
happen.
Yeah, he grabs him by the head or something, like his hair is like curly hobbit hair or something. Yeah, exactly. So I agree. Like there's the movies, like the music by Howard Shore obviously is a main reason as to why this is, but they often pack more of an emotional punch. Like there's not a distance, but everyone's a little more cool-headed in the books.